Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I think it is no secret that ever since Warzone released a few months back, multiplayer in Modern Warfare has definitely been put on the back burner, I guess you could say, when it comes to new content. Meaning we just don't see as many significant updates there compared to Warzone as it stands. You know, recently with the newer seasons, it seems like we've had less maps introduced than before. Seasons 1 and 2 certainly had more content, especially maps released while they were live, but recently, thanks to the Season 4 update, we got some new files that, as always, were data mined and then leaked. And so, we now have some new intel on what maps we can expect to see in the future, and also what maps we cannot expect to see in the future. So there is some good news and also some bad news with this series of leaks. But yeah, as we break it all down today, if you enjoyed the video at any point, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here, I am always covering the latest Call of Duty news, intel, updates, leaks, you name it, you'll find it right here on the channel. So feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on to stay on top of all of that stuff. So first things first, when it comes to leaks, especially with maps, there are a few things that should be understood beforehand. Now, there are a lot of references to maps in the game files. There have been pretty much ever since launch, actually. I believe sometime later this week, I want to revisit all the leaks that we've seen throughout the year and sort of figure out which ones are missing to see what we can expect all across the board in the future. But anyways, when it comes down to the maps themselves, there are a ton of things that can be found in the files. However, the amount of info on these maps kind of varies. Some of these maps are simply referenced by name and name alone, so we can assume those ones are not going to be released in the immediate future. Other maps, though, have various game modes tied to them apparently, and others actually have images associated with them too. And those are the ones that we can expect to see release sooner than some of the others. Now, all of this info today is stemming from Geeky Pastimes. He has been a pretty credible leaker up until this point, and you can find links to all of his stuff down below. Now, I suppose I'll start with the bad news first, simply because there is less of it, but it is actually a pretty important discussion. So, recently we have talked about Terminal releasing, based off of a few files and also some assumptions as well. But according to Geeky, the game currently does have a few files relating to Terminal. However, the files that can be found do not seem to indicate that Terminal could be coming as a multiplayer map, which I know is definitely some news that some of you probably didn't want to hear. You know, Terminal has been an icon in the Modern Warfare franchise. We of course saw it in MW2 and also in MW3, and I thought it was a fantastic map in both of those games. I honestly expected it to be a part of the game before now, just because of its ties to the Modern Warfare name, but now, at least according to the files, Terminal may not be coming to the game ever. So unfortunately, we should not get our hopes up regarding that. Then, Geeky also went on to say that High Rise is another map that does not seem to be referenced in the files whatsoever. Now, this discussion has honestly been more of a rumor rather than a leak. As far as I'm aware, there have not been files relating to High Rise that were ever in the game, but with COD Mobile recently announcing that High Rise was going to be added into its game, I guess a lot of people just jumped to the conclusion that it may be coming to this game as well. And hey, you know, I definitely want High Rise just as much as the next guy. Personally, I think it was one of the best maps ever in Call of Duty history, but unfortunately, another bummer, it does not seem like High Rise is ever going to be released into Modern Warfare multiplayer. Now, that is pretty much it for the bad news. From this point on, we just have good news, and I guess also some kind of confusing news as well. So, as far as the maps go that do have references in the game files, there are actually quite a few here. However, these are maps that do not have images associated with them, so we likely won't see these release anytime this season, but they could potentially, keyword potentially, release in Season 5, or maybe even later on after that, if Infinity Ward plans to update the game more past Season 5. Oh, and by the way, the following info is coming from Geeky's video on the subject, so no tweets to showcase here, but it is all these same source regardless. Anyways, the first map that Geeky mentioned was actually Invasion, and if you played MW2 back in the day, or I guess ever for that matter, this might sound pretty familiar to you, because from my understanding, this is actually a remake of Invasion from MW2 that is in the files. Also, what's kind of curious about this is that Invasion is actually already on a multiplayer map, it's just not playable. But on the map Euphrates Bridge, if you were to go into the spectator mode, you can actually see Invasion on the outside of the map. Now, it is totally unrendered and looks super weird because it's not meant to be a visible thing when you're actually playing on the map. but I do think it is a very interesting thing that Invasion is already on Euphrates Bridge and is now referenced in the game files as a potential new map. Then, the next map that Geeky brings up is Broadcast, which of course is another remake. We saw this one back in Call of Duty 4, and we actually already have Broadcast in the game as well. It is in fact TV station in Warzone. Initially back in Season 1 actually, during the cutscene that we saw for that, we all saw what we assumed was a teaser for Broadcast coming to the game as a new multiplayer map. Lo and behold, it was instead a teaser for Warzone, but Broadcast is also on the list of potential maps as well. Then we also have Oil Rig in the files. This was a map that we saw leaked just prior to Season 4, and I believe this could be a remake of the MW3 map Offshore. Now, I don't know if that is 100% confirmed or not, but I have heard talk of that previously. And because this was leaked with some of the other Season 4 DLC maps that are already confirmed or actually in the game as of now, I would say it is pretty likely that we will see this one in the future just by association. But of course, and as always, only time will tell there. Now, the next map that we have, I think brings some validity to the entire discussion today, because Garden is once again referenced in the game files. Although Garden is actually going to be Cheshire Park, as we can see on the Season 4 roadmap. So this leak is already 100% confirmed. And as I mentioned, files that have images associated with them are the closest to being released, which is proven even more by it being on the official roadmap. Now, alongside Garden, there is one other map in the files that has an image with it, and it is known as Exclusion, and apparently this is going to be a brand new map for gunfight. Now, unfortunately, I can't show the image of Exclusion on screen since it is still leaked, but it does look like this map takes place near the Chernobyl Carnival area, in more of a rundown junkyard almost. However, the iconic Ferris wheel is certainly in the background, and although this doesn't tell us a whole lot about the map itself, it does set a very interesting setting when it comes down to it. But here's the thing, Exclusion is not mentioned on the roadmap whatsoever, yet it has an image associated with it, so this may be some kind of surprise update for Season 4, and if not, I assume this will instead be a Season 5 launch map in early August. Now, here is where we get into the more confusing leaks. These are either files that are just simply names and then nothing else, or they're just confusing in some other way, shape, and or form. So, first and foremost here, we've got Stadium. Now, we have talked about this a bit recently, how the stadium may be getting an interior in Warzone and potentially it may be coming as a map in multiplayer too. But because it's not clear if it's one or the other or even both, and there aren't any clear images indicating what the final outcome may be, this one is basically chalked up to be a giant question mark. Then we also have Farideh, and this is probably the weirdest situation that we have out of everything in the video today, because this was a map that we saw teased in the original trailer for the game. Now, I know for a fact that Joe Secott tweeted saying it would be coming to the game as a future DLC map. If I can find that tweet, I will throw it up on the screen now. I know it was from back in like December or January, maybe even earlier than that, honestly. However, Farideh is a map that is in the files. It was said to be a DLC map by a developer, but it is still MIA for the time being. Then, to close things out on a slightly less confusing but still somewhat confusing note, we have several maps that are in the files solely as names. No images, no modes, they are just basic map references. And these include Assault, Bombsite, Fallout, Millbase 2, aka Millbase the sequel, Shattered, Scaries, Herat, and also Malyshev. And some of these names are actually from the original map leak that we got back, I want to say last fall. And as of now, according to Geeky, we're not sure if and when these maps will come to the game. But if they do, we know it's not going to be for a while, so either in Season 5 or maybe even Season 6, if that ends up being a thing in the future. So, with all of that being said, those are the current multiplayer maps that have been leaked and should be coming to the game at some point in the future. And that is going to wrap things up for today. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And of course, if you're new here and you want to stay up to date with the latest Call of Duty news, intel, updates, leaks, and everything in between, feel free to subscribe with your notifications turned on. That way you'll always know whenever I upload a new video. As always, if you want to check out any of my partners, be sure to use code IMMORTAL on all Scuff, G Fuel, Control Freak, and Respawn products. All of those links can be found in the description below, and once again, thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.